Okay, whole life insurance. I'm just kidding. I'm not here to sell anyone anything. And Anna has promised me, she did the research, nobody has ever died while public speaking. I could be the first, but hopefully. So yeah, today I just want to talk about what to expect from a real financial planner versus just who we hear about, people that are just managing assets and not doing good work. And so just what can we expect from a real financial planner and what should they do for us? Okay, so nothing makes any sense in this industry. When I first became a financial planner, I was super interested in personal finance for several years. And then someone came to our college class and they talked to me about the financial planning major. And at the time I was like, wow, that's so cool. I can do my hobby as my job. Sign me up. And so once I started taking the CFP classes, I was like, okay, I want to understand the industry a little bit more. So I started meeting with other advisors, take them out to coffee, whatever, get to know their job, how they work with clients. And so about 4 or 5 meetings in, someone asked me, they were like, do you want to be a financial advisor? And I said, no, I want to be a financial planner. And he kind of laughed at me and he was like, those are the same thing. He was like, what I was asking you was, do you want to lead relationships? And that's when I realized that there's no uniform language in the industry. You can have a financial planner, you can have a financial advisor, you can have an investment advisor, wealth manager, wealth advisor, are all kind of words used to describe the same thing. But there's no title protection for the term financial planner. There's no requirement for what someone needs to do to meet that standard. At my company, they call us wealth advisors. Why? I don't know. They didn't consult me. So there's no title protection on the term financial planner. How do you know that the person sitting across from you has your best interests at heart? Financial planners kind of fall into 2 buckets. There's the fiduciary bucket and the suitability bucket. And the fiduciary, that's kind of the word that we've kind of learned to kind of go to, right? That means that they have to act in your best interest. And then the suitability, that's kind of that other side. Suitability just means that they have to put you in a product that is suitable for your needs, which means that they can put their interests above yours, and that opens that up for conflicts of interest. So what you can know if someone's a fiduciary or under that suitability is kind of by their licenses. The primary license is a Series 65. That is what someone needs to give investment advice for a fee. They also have to register with the state to be an actual investment advisor. That's what most financial advisors have to do. They have to go get their Series 65 and they have to register with the state. But then there's the suitability licenses. So if someone has the 6, the 7, or the 63, that means they don't necessarily need to act in your best interest and they can just sell you whatever they want. The problem is that you can't just look for someone, oh, the Series 65, they're a fiduciary, they have my best interest at heart. Because what happens is you can have multiple licenses, which means you can act in multiple capacities. And so then you have a fiduciary who, what they say is that they're the fiduciary for the plan, but they're not the fiduciary for the implementation of the plan. So you can have someone that says they're a fiduciary, they give you your financial plan, it is right for you, and then they turn around, take their fiduciary hat off, put their suitability hat on, and they go and they sell you a product that is suitable for your needs, but is not the best thing for the plan that they recommended. And that's how you get people who need to save more for retirement, and then they're sold whole life insurance, which I'm not selling. The next step is to kind of look at the fee models and how someone's charging to kind of make sure that their interests are aligned with yours. Fee models are not the end all be all, but it's a really good starting place. Most of us know what fee models to avoid. So we have the commission people and the fee-based. Commission just means that they receive an incentive from providing you a product. And then fee-based is kind of that murky in-between where they can charge a fee for advice, but they can also charge a commission. That's where you get kind of the multiple hats going on. So you just kind of you generally want to avoid both of these. However, just because somebody accepts a commission doesn't mean they're inherently bad. When you go get homeowners insurance, somebody's having a commission for that. If you have children, you probably need some form of life insurance. Somebody's going to accept a commission for that. So you don't need to necessarily avoid them, but it's when they're giving you a product that doesn't necessarily fit your needs. You want to make sure you have the product in mind when you're going out to find these people. So then the fee model we're most familiar with is kind of that fee only. That means somebody is charging you a fee for advice. But that kind of is a little bit broader than people think. So what's kind of in that fee only bucket? AUM. AUM is fee only. AUM means assets under management. That's kind of what we hear to generally avoid in the community. That means that somebody's managing your money and they're charging you a percentage on that. And then so next we have flat fee. Flat fee is what most of us in this community need. That means you are just paying a flat fee that is agreed upon upfront for the services. But flat fee has many forms that it can take also. There's hourly, that you just pay someone for an hour to ask questions. There's project-based, where they can help you solve a specific problem. Should you change jobs, say a family member passed away and you need help with managing their estate, they help you with one-time projects. Subscription model, that's kind of monthly, ongoing. Okay, and so those are kind of this is kind of what falls into that fee-only bucket. I believe that all of these fee models are used by advisors that are doing good work, even AUM sometimes. But different fee models are right for different types of people. They provide different services, and everybody needs something different from an advisor. And so while this community may not benefit from any sort of asset management, that doesn't mean that others don't. So Rational Reminder is a podcast that I really like. They recently did an episode on advisors where they gave out a bunch of statistics. And one that stuck out to me was that biased investors who get advice end up just as wealthy as the least biased investors with no advisor. And that's looking at a pool of like all advisors, not just the good ones. And so if we think we are the least biased investors in this community who understand the market and understand the fluctuations, that means other people might kind of fall into the biased investor bucket, where it makes sense for them to have that accountability of someone managing their assets, keeping them from touching it, keeping them from panicking. And so what this tells me is that like our willingness to manage our finances as members of this community does not automatically transfer to the people around us. I think everybody has the ability to learn this stuff, but not everyone has the willingness. I regularly see like in Facebook posts or whatever, people are like, oh, you need to fire your advisor. And people will post and they'll be like, hey, I have this advisor. I know I need to fire them, but I'm not comfortable doing that yet. And everybody will tell them, do it anyway. They're scamming you. There's no need to have a financial advisor. But they just said they weren't comfortable doing it on their own. So instead of encouraging people to fire their advisors, we should be able to educate them and help them replace them to find someone better. To further drive that point home, we have this from Jeremy Schneider, the Personal Finance Club. This is just kind of illustrating, so if the average advisor is getting 3.6%, but the S&P 500 is 9.5%, there's kind of a behavior gap there, right? And so this can be the value that a biased investor could realize from advice. But again, not everybody benefits from investment management. You guys are unbiased investors. You're perfect. You get you get 9.5% every time. You guys are such overachievers. And so you're not going to benefit from investment management, but you would probably benefit from financial planning, which is a much more in-depth personal process. So what does a real financial planner do? There's a lot going on here. We do a lot. Okay, this was just all the things that were top of mind to me when I was creating this. It's not all encompassing, but I do want to talk about a few of my very, very favorites. So retirement planning. When we started this weekend, there were introductions and people were talking about a lot of decisions that they were wrestling with. When to retire, when to pull that trigger. Health insurance, people were talking about. They want help spending more. They want help finding a purpose. These are all things that you can discuss with a really good financial planner. Who here has one more year syndrome? Who here's spouse has one more year syndrome? Who here wants to spend more money? Okay. So an advisor will give you the confidence to do all those things. Or maybe you could have retired years ago, or maybe you could spend way more than you are right now. Or maybe you just overanalyze everything and you want to offload a decision. Does that sound like anyone in this room? Something else I really love about our job is couples counseling. We say money is one of the leading causes of divorce, more specifically spending. When we give out client surveys every year, people say that their second favorite benefit of our relationship is couples counseling. After, financial planning, they pay us for that. And so we just act as an impartial third party to help kind of bring people together and make sure they're aligned. In tax planning, taxes are complicated. Things change, tax laws change over time, and respectfully to my elders in the room, eventually you're gonna slow down and it's gonna get harder and harder to keep up with new information. Estate planning, who here needs to get their estate documents done? I know I do. Trustandwill.com, don't be cheap, just go do it. A new house. How long do you ponder before moving or buying a new house? Months, years? It's really nice to have somebody help with this decision making. For a lot of people, they come to us and we generally recommend that they rent for a year in the place that they want to live before buying. When they don't listen to us, they end up hating it and selling their house a year later. That loses them a lot of money. And also just how much emotional energy is saved by just having someone to talk about this with. You're not pondering for years, you're bringing it up, you're having a conversation, and you're making a decision. This is one of my favorites. I know I made the elders joke earlier, right? You guys aren't here yet with aging, but your parents are, and you know people that are. Finances are generally really hard to stay on top of as you age. There was a Texas Tech study done that said that at around 55, on average, people's ability to understand financial concepts starts to go down. But another study was done and showed that their confidence does not go down. So then based on that, it probably makes sense that around that age or maybe a little bit older, people start to engage help. We like to pull our elderly clients in at least a couple times a year just to lay eyes on them. You can see difference in how they walk. And another thing, so I'm gonna step on my soapbox a little bit here on the aging thing. This is like my favorite category. If I had done another talk, it would have been on this. Hearing aids, okay. A couple weeks ago, we sent 3 follow-up emails in 1 week with an audiologist linked in there so that people could go and get hearing aids. Because it's really annoying to talk to people when they just say, what? And also you start to lose that social. As you can't communicate with people, you become more and more socially detached. So just making them go get hearing aids improves their quality of life for the next 30, 40 years. My boss is 50. She has these Cadillac hearing aids, you guys. They're like, I call them her $8,000 AirPods because she answers calls, she listens to music. We go to restaurants, she'll turn down the background music and just listen to me. Like, these are nice hearing aids. I've talked to a couple of you this weekend. It may be time. Retirement communities are my other favorite subject. We talk about aging in place. Nobody wants to go to a nursing home. When you look at nursing homes, you see the little people in the rockers. You're like, I don't want to do that. That's not fun. But in reality, nice retirement communities, now they cost money, they're expensive, but nice retirement communities, you can have a villa, you can have a garage, you can have a house, but then you have all these people around you. You have exercise classes, you have dinner to go through that's structured for you. You have someone coming to help clean your house if you need to. It's very turnkey, there's no maintenance. And you also have all these people. And people say that the social connections are the #1 predictor of long-term quality of life. So if you are in a place where you have all these people around you, you're gonna do a lot better. And our value as financial planners is having these conversations as early as possible. Because once you start slipping, you don't wanna move into a retirement community. It's brought up to you for the first time. Everybody jokes, they're like, oh, I don't want my kids to put me in a home. Dude, I'm so excited to go into a home. It's like college. These people are going on field trips. They're sneaking booze in. Our clients recently, they organized a whole synchronized swimming thing. It was so funny. They have so much fun. And we will tell people, because you want to go, well, first of all, our population as a whole is aging quickly and we don't have the resources to support them, right? And so these places are getting harder and harder to get into. So it's more and more important for us to have those conversations earlier with people. so that they can get deposits down and stuff, because we don't want them to have a triggering event and then have very limited options of where to go. And we have these conversations with people all the time. And they're like, no, nothing's gonna happen to me, I'm fine. You guys, last month we had this conversation. She's like, I'm fine, nothing's gonna happen to me. At 3 p.m. that day, she tripped off a curb and broke her hip. And what does that do? Now, if you're in your home, you have your husband taking care of you. He's not super mobile. Your recovery is not gonna be that great. It's gonna take longer and longer for you to get better. But if you are in a retirement community where you have that support, you have those people checking on you regularly, her quality of life, she's gonna get better, and then it's gonna continue going. Versus now, her life is gonna be dramatically different now. Her recovery is never gonna be great, and it's just gonna keep going down from there. Okay, so these are all very important things. These are all very cool things, but not all financial planners are gonna counsel you on all of this. So it really depends on what type of advisor you're working with and what their services are. So the behavioral aspect too. So everything I mentioned, you guys can do yourself. You can look up the IRS code, you can figure out your perfect withdrawal rate, you can figure out how the ACA works. You know that market fluctuations are normal, but none of that helps you with the anxiety and the mental load that it takes to do those things. The console wrestle with what the actual right decision is. We're human beings, we're not robots, we're not perfect. So much so that last year my boss asked me to be her financial advisor. It is so hard to make these decisions for ourselves that impact ourselves. And sometimes we just need someone to kick our butt and say do it, and then make us get our estate documents done. So just like you can outsource housekeeping and cooking, you can outsource as much as your financial advice, as much as your financial life as you want. But it's a luxury for most people, and you cannot get this service for $150 an hour. So what can you expect from each fee model? So first, investments. It's never been an easier time to invest. Most of us here, we don't need investment management, but for people that we want to recommend it to, robo-advisors have done a really good job of filling this need. They help offload that decision-making. Most of us VTSAX and chill, but some of us overanalyze. We're like, ooh, should we add in international? Should we add in some small cap value? I don't want to think about that stuff. And a robo-advisor will do that for you if you want to offload it. That general charge is 0.25% for most robo-advisors. The highlighted boxes here are what a one-time financial advisor will do for you. This is what probably most of us need. We want to go in, pay somebody a large sum of money. Generally, this costs $5,000 to $10,000. You go in, you pay it. They look at everything one time. They give you a plan. If you're close to retirement, they'll help you organize for the ACA. They'll help you do all these things. And then they help you implement. And then they send you on your way, right? You don't have that ongoing relationship. They're not going to work with you every single year. But then you've opened that door, you've created that relationship for someone that you can go back to and ask questions to as you need. So what isn't in the boxes are things that they will help you with. A general comprehensive advisor, they'll do all those things. They just won't be able to do that for you every year. They can't rebalance your portfolio if they're not seeing you every year. They can tell you how to do it and set you free, but they're not going to do that for you every year. They can't have these aging conversations with you and help you with your aging parents just because they're not seeing you every year. But for most of us, I really like this model. It makes sense to go in, you pay for it once, and you get that peace of mind, and then you can kind of go forth after that. There are cheaper options. So like Facet Wealth will do like a subscription model for like $300 a month. But Facet is overpopulated because their fees are really low. So they have 200 clients per advisor, and they can't give you good service. So while you're saving money there, but you're paying it every year, I just think it makes sense to pay a little bit more upfront, pay $8,000 and get a good comprehensive plan, and then you don't have to pay that ongoing subscription. Okay, and then this is just back to everything. Ongoing financial advice where you're getting all of this kind of looked at every single year. I believe that this is the most beneficial model for most biased consumers. This applies to your parents, your friends, your family, someone that's going to meet with them at least twice a year and kind of go over everything that is pertinent to them. And hell, this would even make sense for a DIYer who just wants to pay to outsource their decision making. So how do we find one? So basic questions. This is just like kind of establishing a baseline. Who is this person? Do I want to talk to them? What's their fee model? Is it flat fee? Is it subscription? Do they have an AUM? What does that look like? What licenses do they have? They should have the Series 65 license. If they have the CFP, that's really great. I think the CFP is a minimum standard for knowledge for financial planners. It is not the maximum standard. Do they have households that look like you? Accumulation and retirement planning are two very, very different things. If you're in retirement, you want someone that's in retirement. If you're in this community, you want someone that understands this community. If you have stock options, real estate, you want someone that knows that really well and can help you with it. Investment philosophy. We want someone that doesn't think they can beat the market. And then experience. You probably don't want a 24-year-old doing your finances. They don't even put me in charge yet, you guys. And then how often are they meeting? If they're meeting with you once a year, they're probably not doing a good job. You can't talk with people proactively about their life once a year, as well as get all the other housekeeping stuff that needs to happen done. So they should be meeting with you at least 2 to 3 times a year, and then have additional touch points throughout where they're checking in. We probably talk to our clients at least every 6 weeks, but they're always reaching out, so it's generally more than that. Okay, but then my favorite questions to ask that I never really hear people talking about: can they do tax planning? So taxes touch every single thing that we do. Most large firms do not do tax planning because they don't want the liability of it. It's not that they can't, it's that they tell their advisors, don't do this, mostly because their advisors are taught sales trading and they don't trust them. So you go to Fidelity, Schwab, Merrill, they can't do tax planning. How many households do they serve? I don't want an advisor that's responsible for 200 other families. If I'm looking for ongoing advice, then that number should be less than ideally 100. We have 65 clients per advisor, just because anything more than that for us is too much to handle. But of course, if you're doing the flat fee one-time plan, that's going to be a little bit different because they don't have these ongoing relationships to manage. Do they have a client service calendar? Do they have a proactive plan in place to reach out to people? I meet with advisors all the time that they're like, yeah, I meet 2 to 3 times a year, but they're just they're going over investments 2 to 3 times a year. They're not doing anything. You need to have a proactive plan in place where clients are just reaching out to you, hey, I'm moving, can you send me some money? No, I need to be proactively discussing that with them. These should not come as surprises. So an example for us, we'll do our mid-year meeting is estate planning and insurance. We'll look at people's estate planning or insurance. At the end of every year, we'll do tax planning. But it's all proactive. It's not waiting for them to come to us. It's we're going to them and telling them, here's what you need to do. And then what's their discovery process look like? I think this one is one of the most telling. At the beginning of your relationship with your advisor, they should spend 1, 2, 3 hours talking to you about your life, getting to know you, your values, because otherwise your financial plan is going to be garbage in, garbage out. You really want them to have a comprehensive discovery process where they're talking with you, and then they have several meetings after that where they're explaining everything to you. They'll probably have an estate planning meeting. They'll probably have a retirement planning meeting. They'll probably have a short-term cash flow meeting because they want to hit all of that. You don't need to look at all of this, but so an example of what this may cost for somebody in this community. I chose Aptus Financial. This is Sarah Catherine's firm. I love Sarah Catherine. You can tell she's put a lot of effort into her pricing because these numbers do not end in zeros. They're inflation adjusted. She's put a lot of effort not only in making sure that her fees are fair, but making sure that her employees are paid well. And so she only does ongoing planning. So she wants you to come in and have that relationship every year, but you save a little money going forward. So the first year is about $7,000. And then after that, depending on which model you choose, it's either $3,500 or $2,400. But Sarah Catherine is very specific of who she works with. She works with DIYers. She makes sure that people have the time, the temperament, and the willingness to do this themselves before she works with them. So if you, as a DIYer, are paying $7,000, it can be a little bit more expensive for your friends and family to get help that need a little bit more hand-holding. And then resources. How do we find these advisors? Okay, because most of the industry is made up of commission and fee-based people, and very few are actually doing good work. So these are some of my favorite websites. So Advice Only Network, that's going to be people that are not managing assets. They are only giving you advice. NAPFA is a professional organization. You have to be fee only to be part of that. Now again, fee only includes assets under management. But for some people, a $10,000 fee is a little bit unattainable. So if someone has $500,000, it may make sense for them to go to an AUM advisor to get good quality ongoing advice. And then of course, Aptus Financial, that's Sarah Catherine's firm if you want to work with them specifically. Nectarine, this is a new website that Jeremy Schneider from Personal Finance Club came out with. Nectarine is hourly advice. It is $150 an hour, but it is hourly. You cannot build a financial plan in 1 hour. It takes 10, 20, 30 hours sometimes to build a financial plan. So Nectarine is really for one-off questions and problems that you can get solved quickly, not in, because 10 hours adds up. And then estate documents, Trust and Will is my favorite go-to site. It's fairly cheap and it's a good way to get them done quickly without overanalyzing too much. Finally, we have an access problem. Financial planning is unattainable for many, many people. My favorite organization that I like to recommend to people in this community, it's not necessarily the best, but they do a really good job of making it easy for people to help. They work with people in their third decade of their life, so mid-20s, mid-30s. They put these young people through an education program, and then they pair them with a financial person. I've asked them, financial nerds are totally accepted. And so then we give them a financial plan, and then we check in with them a year later. And the students that go through the program get a $500 contribution to their Roth IRAs once they're done. So if you're interested in helping, it's my favorite one. Okay, that's it.